The Buffalo Bills escaped the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football in a game that was much tighter than expected. I'm offering my top takeaways today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Happy Victory Monday to you. The Buffalo Bills defeated the New York Giants 14-9 and improved to 4-2 on the season. Folks, it was not supposed to be like that. The Bills were 15.5-point favorites at home and escaped with a 5-point win that came down to the very last play. It's good to win. It's good to find a way. It's good to have a fourth quarter comeback. It's good to have a game-winning drive for Josh Allen, but man, oh man, was that game ugly. And look, they're not always going to be a 38-10 win like you had over the Raiders, or a 37-3 win like you had over the Commanders, or a 48-20 win like you had over the Dolphins. But man, that was a tough football game to live through, right? And I figured we'd get a spirited effort from the Giants. It was a big-time revenge game for them. I mean, look at Tyrod Taylor. He gets to start in this game after a few years ago he was traded away from the Bills to the Browns after quarterbacking the Bills to the playoffs and ending their 17-year playoff drought. And I don't think Brian Daboll and Sean McDermott are overly fond of each other. This game meant a lot for the Giants, and they had a real shot to win it. They gave the Bills all they could handle. And as I speculated over during our final conversation on the Saturday podcast, I think Tyrod Taylor starting this game for the Giants was absolutely to their benefit. That team was reeling with Daniel Jones, reeling. And Tyrod is a stable quarterback that doesn't make mistakes. He can make a few throws down the field. He can extend a few plays with his legs, and that gave them a real chance in this game to really help them overcome a really banged up offensive line. But at the end of the day, the Bills won the game. And there's things to be happy about, of course, but plenty to be frustrated with, especially considering the opponent. I mean, the start of this game was incredibly frustrating for the offense. I think the Bills' game plan was pretty clear. Throw the ball to Stefon Diggs and get a lead. That was what they wanted to do, and I kind of like that, right? Throw the ball to Stefon Diggs, get a lead. Sounds pretty good, and it certainly had its moments. But there was just not enough production from the other components of the passing game outside of Stefon Diggs. 100 of Josh Allen's 169 passing yards went to Stefon Diggs. Diggs had 10 catches for 100 yards on 16 targets. If I'm not mistaken, I heard Steve Tasker say after the game that 10 of Josh Allen's first 13 throws went to Stefon Diggs. And so Diggs, like I said, 10 for 100 on 16 targets. Everyone else had 9 catches for 69 yards. Everyone else on 13 targets. Now, credit to them, 2 touchdowns among that mix, but the bottom line is you couldn't get enough going in the passing game. I'm very frustrated with Gabe Davis. Winds up having some catches early, but then he fumbles, right? He finally makes a play with the ball in his hands, right? Yards after catch, Gabe Davis is creating with the ball in his hands, and he fumbles. And then he just proceeded to be a complete non-factor in the game. You need a whole lot more out of a team captain, especially when your offense is in a rut. You want to be able to lean on a guy like that to get you out of it, so it's just not Josh Allen trying to throw the ball to Stefon Diggs. And look, I think something very important for us to point out about the dynamics of this game is that the foundation of this offensive scheme is 2 tight ends, 12 personnel. It is the foundation. I was at training camp, and there were literally sessions where it was just Josh Allen, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Stefon Diggs, Gabe Davis working on stuff, right? They had sessions just dedicated to those guys. That's the bread and butter of this offense. And you really didn't have that, right? You didn't have Dalton Kincaid. And I know that we're frustrated with Dalton Kincaid not getting enough opportunity in the passing game, but you felt his impact today. You understood after watching that game how he affects the spacing of the passing game. And while he doesn't get those targets, he does get open in the middle of the field. He does command attention, and that does open up things for everyone else. You felt his impact by not being available for this game. And obviously, Dawson Knox is battling a big-time wrist injury right now. I mean, you saw David Edwards in this game early on playing a ton of tight end. I mean, even going in motion. I know that there's frustrations with Dawson Knox, and a lot of that's warranted. But I'm telling you, this guy's battling a wrist injury. And so you just didn't have these 2 tight ends that so much of what you're trying to be on offense is built around, even if they're not getting that much opportunity to catch the football. But that offense, frustrating. Ken Dorsey was frustrating in this game. Ken just couldn't pull the right levers to get the Bills out of a rut. He didn't get to the run game quick enough. I mean, the unit had no rhythm, and that's 2 weeks in a row. I'm looking forward to studying the tape and seeing more about what went wrong and sharing that with you on the next podcast. But at the end of the day, this offense just didn't have enough rhythm. And I do attribute a lot of that to Ken Dorsey. He just didn't pull the right levers at the right times. It was go get the ball to Stefon Diggs. And when that didn't work, there was nothing else he could do. A lot of frustrations. And then you have 2 misses from Tyler Bass. And I know that they were his first 2 misses of the season, and they were both from beyond 50 yards. But this is a $5.1 million a year kicker, the 5th highest paid kicker in the league, and he left 6 points on the board in a game that you scored 14 and you won by 5. You needed more from Tyler Bass in this game. I mean, the end of the game sequence for the Bills on offense was just wildly frustrating. 1:45 left in the game. You take over with the ball 14-9. You're leading at the +37. The Giants have 3 timeouts. The thought process here should have been that this is a defensive struggle. You force the Giants to use all 3 of their timeouts. And the worst case scenario is that you punt the ball and you force them to go 80+ yards with no timeouts, needing a touchdown when they hadn't scored a touchdown in a long time. Instead, you do the aggressive thing. You throw an incomplete pass on 3rd down that allows them to keep a timeout, and then you miss the field goal, and the Giants take over at the 43. And on that incomplete pass, ball was a little bit short from Josh Allen. Dawson Knox still had a real chance to catch the football, but the bottom line is poor execution in a high leverage situation. And you can applaud the aggressiveness if you want to, but you also have to be mindful of the game script. It was a defensive struggle. It was a defensive struggle. I like being aggressive. I love the idea of trying to go win a football game. But your offense wasn't clicking. It was a defensive struggle. Make them go the distance of the field with no timeouts when they haven't gone the distance of the field in weeks. At the end of the day, the Bills won the game, and there's nothing to apologize for. But thank God it was the Giants on the other sideline. Thank God. All right, we're going to get into some positives on the other side here. But first, I got to tell you about my new favorite way to purchase tickets. You got to check it out. It's Game Time. You know, when you're going to go to a big event, you shouldn't have to worry about it. You shouldn't have to worry about getting tickets, but the reality is a lot of times we do. Game Time is here for you. It is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, all the music, all the comedy, all the theater events near you. They've got killer deals. I mean, killer deals on last-minute tickets. They've got all-in prices, which I love. They give you a price. That's the price. There's no additional fees going on top of that. You get a view from your seat, so an image, so you know exactly what to expect when you get to the venue, and a best price guarantee. Game Time. It takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets. The app is awesome. It's super easy to navigate. They have flash deals, last-minute tickets. You don't have to plan months in advance to go to an event. You can purchase tickets right up to the day of the event, and the tickets are sent right to your phone. You don't have to dig through the emails, nothing like that. Right to your phone. Super, super easy. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Folks, you got to check out Prize Picks. This thing is awesome. It's the funnest, the most exciting, the easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. I absolutely love the format. It's just you against the numbers. It's not you versus thousands of other players, including pros, including sharks. It's just you versus the numbers. Here's what you do. You select 2 or more players. You select higher or lower or more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry. That is it. It doesn't take long. You can make an entry in under a minute. And when you win, the withdrawals come super, super quick. I love watching sports. And sports right now, it's phenomenal. Baseball playoffs, the NHL season's rolling. Basketball is about to heat up. Of course, NFL, college football. Watching those sports is fun. It's even more exciting when you have a Prize Picks entry going into games. I've been doing well. I've been winning over at Prize Picks. So check them out. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use our code LockedOnNFL. That'll get you a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, folks, let's keep this conversation going here. I want to talk about some things that I liked from this game because I felt like that opening segment was just talking about the frustrations of a win. And I guess I like talking about the frustrations of a win more than a loss, but there were some positives, right? The Bills won the game. I certainly love scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter to win the game, right? You're shut out through 3 quarters. Unbelievable, right? Against that defense at home. Shut out through 3 quarters, but you find 14 points in the fourth quarter to win it, including going 2 for 2 in the red zone. You didn't get down to the red zone very often. Some of that's your own fault, but you got down there twice and you came away with touchdowns. The first one, the Deonte Harty touchdown, the orbit motion, they've been trying to run that play, I feel like, all year. When I was at training camp, they had a lot of success with that against the Bills defense, that orbit motion, that touchdown play that you saw. And it came after a boneheaded play call, right? It was 3rd and goal from the 1. And Ken Dorsey calls this shotgun run play to Latavius Murray. I think you had 2 or 3 receivers as your play side blockers. I mean, just awful design, awful call, awful. 3rd and goal from the 1. Josh Allen's your quarterback. Sneak it. What are we doing? So anyways, you forget about that because of the touchdown, the creative touchdown to Deonte Harty. 17-play, 89-yard drive. Needed it in a big, big way because you take the lead. And then you get back down to the red zone on a 2nd and 6 from the 15? The Quintin Morris touchdown pass. 12-play, 75-yard drive, another high-leverage situation. And that was a fun play. I mean, Josh Allen extending it, making people miss in the pocket, and then he just sees that little bit of leverage, and Quintin Morris is on the same page. And Josh just drills it in there, and Quintin Morris is able to make the catch away from the defender and kind of in between 2 defenders. Is a great play. Great play. I watched it live. When I watched it live, my immediate reaction was, how did Josh get away with that, right? Like, I just felt like he just forced it in there and somehow it worked. Then you watched it from the other angle and you realize what he saw, the instincts, the accuracy, everything that went into it. And that was just a very skilled touchdown pass. And you got to hand it to a guy like Quintin Morris. You know, he's not getting a ton of opportunity this year, right? He's been a great story making this team as an undrafted free agent. But look, Dawson Knox is the tight end. Dalton Kincaid's the 1st-round pick. He's not getting as much run. When you get your opportunity, you have to make a play. And my goodness, did he ever do that? So I like that. And I like how the run game found some life in the second half. It made it even more frustrating that you didn't do it more in the first half while you're just throwing incomplete passes left and right. But to see how they leaned into that rushing offense in the second half was interesting. James Cook, 14 carries, 71 yards. That's over 5 yards a carry. And Latavius Murray provided this team with something, 12 carries for 45 yards. But I'm really encouraged with James Cook in this game because I was very discouraged with him coming out of the last game. If you remember, I put him as a dud. I know that, negative rushing yards, but you just watched him. The decision-making was poor. He's kind of just light stepping through holes. Like, he needs to play, run with some pad level and run with some conviction. And that didn't happen in the last game against Jacksonville, but it did today. You can see that he was running with purpose, and you could kind of tell that there was a more urgency about the way that he was carrying the football. And I think the Bills did a good thing with, allowing Latavius Murray to start this game and allowing him to play a little bit earlier, and then, allowing James Cook to come in from there. I think this was a good learning opportunity for James Cook. I like the Bills go 50% on third down. They go 2 for 2 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. So you're 50% on third down, 100% in the red zone. Those are good things. I like the defense in this game. I had high expectations for the defense, obviously, but they played winning football. 9 points allowed. The Giants were 0 for 5 in the red zone. Pause. The Giants were 0 for 5 in the red zone. Now, part of that was their own problems that they had. And, the whole Tyrod Taylor switching to that run play before the half, taking the points off the board. They're going to be 9-0 going into the half, and they just goofed. So, yeah, appreciate some of that. But 5 trips to the red zone for the Giants, no touchdowns. At the end of the day, the Giants had 73 plays for 317 yards. That's 4.3 yards per play. Defense played well. Even if situationally, the Giants were able to get some third downs, their run game found some life there in the fourth quarter. There were some things that were frustrating, but overall, in totality, the defense played great. Again, high expectations for the defense. How about Dorian Williams in this game, right? Got a chance to start and play alongside Terrel Bernard, and I thought he played well. He had a couple of blunders. I know on the 34-yard run by Saquon Barkley, Dorian missed the tackle in the hole. And I know that there was another coverage rep where he was drifting and he was trying to undercut a route that was outside of his zone. He was the hook curl defender. He needed to be tighter. It gave up a third down conversion. But, just watching it live, you felt his presence. He was athletic. He was physical. I liked what I saw. And he'll be a big part of our all-22 review for sure. But I feel like Dorian Williams was a bright spot from watching that game. Terrel Bernard, the guy just continues to be a high-level performer. 12 tackles, 3 for a loss. He don't care that Matt Milano's not next to him. He's playing good football still. I thought that it was the first opportunity that the Giants had at a game-winning drive, right? When the Bills took over at the 37. There was that second down play where Terrel Bernard just met Saquon Barkley in the hole, and to me, that was a big moment. I thought that Daboll should have had a play-action call there. He didn't. They ran it. That same trap play they were running over and over again, Terrel Bernard just filled. 3 tackles for loss. He played great. Christian Benford, I know that he got beat deep on one play, but I thought he tackled well, and he made that stop on the run before the end of half where the Giants goofed. Benford's the guy that made that tackle. He got low, and he made that tackle. That was a big-time moment in the game. Greg Rousseau, I thought he was terrific in this game. 2 tackles for loss. And had some big-time contained moments. He has such a good feel for maintaining outside leverage and getting himself in positions where he doesn't give up the edge. Big-time performance from Greg Rousseau. A.J. Epinesa with a sack, tackle for loss, and quarterback hit. I wish he would have played. I felt like he didn't play as much later in the game. Maybe that was because the Bills' offense was on the field a lot more in the second half, but I thought there were some moments where A.J. could have been on the field even more. Leonard Floyd with a sack, tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits. He's up to 6.5 sacks on the season. The defense played great. Here's the bottom line, folks. It's week 6, right? It's week 6. Are there things to be concerned about with the Buffalo Bills? Yeah, absolutely. The Bills have to play better. They have to play cleaner. They have to find more rhythm. They have to play better complementary football. But it's week 6. We've talked about this. Don't ride the roller coaster. It's a long season. After that 3-game winning streak going into the Jacksonville game, remember how we felt about this team? Well, fast forward 2 weeks and you feel a little bit different. It's a long season, and week 6 was a great reminder of what the NFL is. The Bills squeaked by the Giants in Buffalo. The Chiefs squeaked by the Broncos on Thursday night. The Eagles lost to the Jets. The 49ers lost to the Browns. with P.J. Walker starting at quarterback for Cleveland. Sure, the Dolphins look good, but the Bills beat them by 4 touchdowns. The Bengals needed Geno Smith to poop his pants in the red zone in the last 2 drives of the game to escape with a win. There's a lot of football left. The Bills need to hit their stride for sure, but remember, they don't hand out any trophies in week 6. Now, the Bills got to play better football. There's no question. There's no question. But just be mindful of what's going on across the league right now and consider that as you react to this football game from the Buffalo Bills. All right, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So if you're looking to hire, you got to get to LinkedIn Jobs, and it is so easy. You create a free job post over there. Then you add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Then they have these simple tools, screening questions. All of that just makes it so easy to focus in on the right candidates with the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Bills Mafia, let's get personal for a minute. Has anyone ever been caught skinny dipping? You know what I mean. When you dip your tortilla chip just barely enough to get a dab of salsa on it. It's okay. We've all been there. And sometimes it's not your fault. Most tortilla chips, they can't even handle a chunky dip without breaking right in half. But folks, those days are over. It is time to say goodbye to skinny dipping and hello to chunky dunking, because Zach's Mighty tortilla chips are literally made to dip. They're strong and sturdy enough to handle the heftiest dips of guac, all 7 layers of dip, and every last chunk in that salsa. So say goodbye to skinny dipping and hello to chunky dunking with Zach's Mighty tortilla chips. They're available now at Wegmans in the chip aisle. Zach's Mighty tortilla chips, equipped to dip. All right, folks, a couple of notes here, injury-wise, things that we need to be mindful of. First of all, obviously, Damian Harris. A scary scene there. They brought out the spine board. They put him in the ambulance. He's taken off the field in an ambulance, taken to the hospital with a neck injury. Gave the thumbs up on the way out. That was an encouraging sign. And then Coach McDermott informed everyone after the game that he's got movement in his arms and legs, and they're just getting him checked out. So hopefully everything's good there. But it was a tough scene, right? I mean, I'll be honest with you. My mind went to places that I didn't want it to go. You can't help but think about what happened in Cincinnati on Monday Night Football with Damar Hamlin. And so it was encouraging to see how that all went down, but kind of a tough scene there for a moment. Obviously, we're concerned about Josh Allen. Shoulder. You saw him get hit, and he's certainly grabbing his shoulder. And then later on in the game, a couple other times you saw him just trying to get it loose. So that's something to be mindful of. He got imaging done after the game. Sean McDermott said that everything's coming back normal. We'll see what the situation is there. Obviously, something to pay attention to throughout the course of the week. What's going on with Josh Allen, if he needs some rest or what the deal is. We know that he's got a shoulder thing. That didn't stop him from when there was that big skirmish from him going in there and throwing his right shoulder into a Giants defender coming to the defense of Spencer Brown. So just a kind of a crazy situation there with a bunch of personal fouls. But, Josh Allen's is tough. I don't think he's going to miss time, but you certainly don't want him to have to play with something that's bothering him. So this win for the Bills puts them at 4-2. They're in second in the AFC East. The Dolphins lead the AFC East. They're at 5-1. They beat the Panthers 42-21. Fell behind early 14-0. And then, the Dolphins were the Dolphins and the Panthers were the Panthers. The Jets beat the Eagles 20-14, and they're 3-3. Jalen Hurts, turning over the ball like crazy. This Jets defense is legit. I mean, they've made Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts look pretty bad this year. And they got to 3-3. And so as I'm watching this Bills-Giants game, I'm thinking to myself, the Bills don't win this game. if they wind up losing to the Giants, they fall to 3-3, they're going to get third in the division. Didn't happen. Bills won. So we can exhale there, but the Jets probably feel pretty good about themselves. They beat the Broncos and the Eagles in consecutive weeks, and they go into their bye now. So we can't rule them out at all. And then there's the Patriots, who lost to the Raiders 21-17. They fell to 1-5 on the season. Let's take a look at my my predictions. And folks, I am not having a good year predicting things. I normally do pretty decent. I usually get 3 or 4 correct. This week I am just tripping all over myself. Here's what happened. My first prediction was that Von Miller would get his first sack of the year. That didn't happen. I'm going to pay attention to Von in the all-22 review. Listening to him after the game, he said, look, the box score wasn't kind to me, but he said he felt good. He said he felt bendier around the edge. We'll see. He's not back, right? I mean, and I don't expect him to be back 2 games, 2 weeks of football back into it. Obviously, ACL tear last Thanksgiving. First time he practices is last week, right? I'm mindful, right? He has grace for me to see him ramp up, but you want to start to feel it. You want to start to see it. I haven't yet. So I predicted that Von would get a sack. That didn't happen. Number 2 is that I predicted the Bills would top their rushing total of the last 2 weeks combined. So 104 against Miami, 29 against the Jets. So I needed them to get 134 yards. Well, they got 128. Come on, Ken. If you would have been a little bit more into the run game in the first half, we might have got that one. Number 3 is I predicted the Bills would score 32 points. They didn't get halfway there. They got 14 points against these Giants who everybody scores on. I got this next one right. I got the next 2 right. I said that Tyrod Taylor would not turn over the football, and he didn't. And that was something like I was in the subtext, obviously. I was given lots of thoughts during the game. And I said, look, the difference between Tyrod and these other quarterbacks the Bills have faced this year is he's not going to turn it over. And so that was obviously a big variable in the game. The Bills win this game 14-9, and they were -2 in the takeaways, right? They turned it over twice, the Josh Allen interception. We didn't talk about that, but it felt like he just didn't get enough air. It felt like Knox was open over if he could have got it over the linebackers, but he just didn't get enough on that throw. Would have been a nice completion. And then, of course, the Gabe Davis fumble. So the Giants go the first 4 games of the season, they don't force a turnover. Then they get 3 against the Giants and lose. Or excuse me, they get 3 against the Dolphins and lose, and then they get 2 against the Bills and lose. So they're +5 the last 2 weeks in turnovers and don't have a win. So I predicted that the Tyrod wouldn't turn it over, and he didn't. I predicted that the Bills would win. I got that correct. Obviously, it looked a little different than I was anticipating, but they got a win. Next up for the Buffalo Bills is a road date with the New England Patriots, who are coming off of a loss to the Raiders. Next up for this podcast is the all-22 review. So I'll get to sleep here. It's 2 a.m. So I'm going to produce this podcast, get to sleep, and then I'm going to get to work on the tape. And at some point Monday afternoon, I will get the all-22 review out for everyone to consume. And then, of course, herd mentality, and we'll navigate the week like we normally do here on Locked On Bills. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. I would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great Victory Monday, and I look forward to catching up with you next for the All-22 review.